So, the other day, I had an idea that I can't seem to get out of my head, and it has to do with movie remakes. For instance, it seems like every few years there's a rumor about a Back to the Future remake being made, and they often don't hold any water whatsoever. They're frivolous, clickbaity headlines that someone slapped together to package an article about a piece of fan art or a quote from a recent interview of one of the film's actors. And I think the natural response to the notion of a Back to the Future reboot is,
"Stop! Back up! Do not touch that! Get away from there! I swear to God, I will karate chop you in the neck if you even think about putting Timothée Chalamet or Tom Holland in an orange puffer vest, or putting a flux capacitor in a Tesla. I will flick your eyeballs!"
And the reason for that response, I think, is the fact that we've watched it happen before to beloved films. Full-blown remakes or confusing reboots, which pluck something that is a beautiful crystallization of time and culture and attempt to force it into the present. I feel like when this happens, the problem isn't really to do with the quality of the remake. Sometimes remakes are very good movies, but even when that's the case, it's sort of like being offered a delicious pie when you're just not hungry. Sure, you might have a little pie because it's a novel experience, but it's never going to taste as good as it does on an empty stomach. Does that metaphor make sense? And keep in mind, when I say remake or reboot, I'm not talking about a movie made much later that has the original director and or cast members, that serves as like a distant sequel or spiritual successor to the films that came before. If you're gonna bring a franchise back from the dead, that's the only respectable way to do it. Tell me a new story in a world that I love, not the same story with faces that I like less. Or God forbid, don't take an animated film and arbitrarily transcribe it to live action for no reason. I mean, we invent new ways for things to be photoreal, and our first instinct is to turn our most sacred dreams into waking nightmares with this technology. But I'm rambling, sorry. Back to my idea. It's about remakes, and it's so simple. I can't believe nobody has done it, especially when it's done so often in the opposite way. You'll see what I mean. So are you ready to hear it? Why don't we make live action movies again as animated ones? Okay, let that sink in for a second. Just hear me out. Think about it. Now check it out in practice, okay? A studio executive walks up to you and says, "We're remaking The Goonies as a stop-motion animated film." Okay, did you feel that? It's like you got super mad for a second, but then at the stop-motion animated film park, you were like, hold on, that could work. I would watch that. I might want to watch that. Okay, all right, let's try some others. Okay, Point Break, but it looks like Vice City. Okay, Time Bandits, but like it's got that Road to El Dorado, Prince of Egypt, Treasure Planet sort of thing going on. All right, Hellboy, but it's like a Spider-Verse style motion comic. Yeah, right? Okay, The Last Starfighter, but it's an anime. Hell, for a long time, I've wanted someone to just keep the audio from the Star Wars prequels and just animate them, right? Same sound, just turn them into animated films. Maybe then you can add in a few of the deleted scenes from Revenge of the Sith that were like shot but never had their VFX finished. I'd pay for that. I wouldn't be mad at that. I might show that to a child, right? Same thing with Harry Potter. If you're gonna remake it, right? If you're gonna do it, just use the original film's audio, make the same movie. I just want to see it like dressed differently. And that wouldn't be very expensive either, right? It's like you can either make a from scratch movie or you can take all the assets you already got and just have someone color it different. And the thing that's so crazy to me is that like multiple times we've done the exact opposite of this idea. And even the best live action remakes are like forgettable. You ever wonder why? It's because real life is live action. You know, animated movies kind of shoot past our sense of normalcy, and they sear their colorful frames and scenes into our gooey little noggins in a way that live action just can't do most of the time. That's why live action Disney films feel like a weird haze, like everything is just a little too dull, a little too boring. Some poor soul sat in front of a computer for months, making the most convincing wood and stone architecture and animal fur that you could imagine, just so your brain would be so unbothered while you watch it that it wouldn't even bother remembering it in the level of detail that you remember its animated counterpart. So you might still think that remakes in general are a waste of time, and admittedly, I do think there is one downside to this idea, and that's that animation is pretty much the only place where true ground-up originality lives in film and television right now. If folks start using it for cash grabs like this, then we're bound to get disenchanted pretty quick. But seriously, I mean, show me an Indiana Jones movie where the gold does this, and I'll pay for a seat. I won't pretend I don't want that. Oh, and by the way, while I was doing a bit of research for this video, I found out that there actually is a Back to the Future remake coming in 2023, but it's a stage musical. And you know what? I'm cool with that, because just like animation, turning something into a live performance with musical numbers added is very transformative, and it's just kind of an interesting way to consume a familiar story. That's why the Shrek and Rocky musicals are actually pretty cool to me, but I don't know. Everyone's got their preferences. You know, I think the best part of this idea is that you don't need to spend $1 zillion de-aging an actor when you're just using their voice. People more or less sound the same. And vocal matches for deceased actors are a lot less distracting than recasts or like weird cursed CGI puppetry. It just makes too much sense for something that has literally never been tried. I would have expected at least one studio somewhere to have tried this by now. But I want to know what you think. I'd love to hear some more ideas for live action movies as animated remakes in the comments. And hey, look, I finished the Lego DeLorean. That's what I was building. I went with the Back to the Future 3 version. This Lego set has the parts to make any of the 3 time machines, but I just like the DeLorean in the 3rd movie because it bears all the marks of its long journey with Doc and Marty. I mean, look at those white wall tires. Whew, that is beautiful. All right. Anyways, thanks everyone for watching. Please stay tuned for more, and I hope you have a wonderful time. Bye-bye.